Hello everyone, Barbara Rankin here today with the Video Creators Design Team from ColourArte, and today I want to share how you can personalize anything in your home, anything that you purchase. I bought this at my local craft store. It was on sale. I wasn't drawn to it for the color, but instead for the ornamentation. I love the Baroque style. So I thought, let me share with you how you too can change and personalize and customize any of your home decor items with ColourArte products. So let's get started. Okay, so as with most projects, I usually start by base coating it with a coat of gesso. You can put enough gesso on to make sure that there's no color showing, but with mixed media, sometimes it's a good thing to have color showing. So let me go ahead and put the camera on fast forward, and you'll see the process. Okay, so I poured some gesso in a little plastic lid, and I'm going to start adding the gesso to the surface. And I particularly like more liquid gessos, especially for this kind of a project, because I don't want to add anything too thick that will cover up or fill in any of the dimensional properties. So I'll go ahead and speed this up so you don't have to watch me finish. And then go ahead and dry it with your heat tool. Just to, hasten the drying time, and then you'll be able to hold it and not make fingerprints in the gesso that you've already put on. So now I'm going to do the other side, but before I start, I'm going to go ahead and finish this little nubby part here. And in case you're wondering why I start with gesso, it's because the gesso preps the surface. And depending on what your surface is, I always like to gesso because I know how most of my paints are going to react to the gesso, whereas I don't always know how it will react to an unprepared surface. So it's just a fail-safe for me, and I think for most mixed media artists, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So now I can continue, and I will do this off camera, but I will continue to paint the gesso and get a nice coverage on there. And I'm not really worried about covering the paint color beneath, not that it's that strong, but by the time I add enough colors, you probably will never see or know what was under there in the first place. So let me do that, and then I'll come back. Okay, as you can see, I've gessoed the entire ornament, and it's all nice and dry. So what I want to do now is add some crackle paint to it, and I will probably add it to the entire piece, leaving some areas thicker than others. Wherever I leave it thick, it will give bigger cracks. Wherever I lay it out thin, it will leave thinner cracks. And so I will go ahead and start doing that, and then I will speed up the video and finish from there. So here goes. Now, perfection is not required with this. Cracks are one of those vintage looking things, and so vintage things don't patina perfectly, or in this case crack. So just remember that while you're doing this. And of course, where I'm adding crackle on these areas where there's dimension or carving, I'm not going to add a thick layer because I don't want to cover up that dimension. And then the other thing is, you should never use a heat gun on crackle paint because it won't crackle. It likes to do its thing, at its own speed and its own drying time. And so patience is a virtue when it comes to crackle paint or any crackle medium. So I will go ahead and speed this up, and I'll show you, I'll come back when it's all painted, dried, and cracked. So here's the ornament. It's dried overnight, and you can see where some of the crackles are actually, they cracked so largely that they were falling off. And I think that just adds to the vintage antiquiness of it. The other, I try to get in here close and show you where the material was applied more thinly, and the cracks are much, much thinner and smaller and finer. So for a thin application, this is what you'll get, and for a thicker application, you'll get these large cracks that in this case sometimes want to fall off. You can see these are doing pretty good, but they're starting to curl up, so I will have to be careful when I paint over them if I want to keep them on the ornament. So I'm going to next paint, and I only added the crackle paint from here to here. I left the center open. I might want to try and make this look like a piece of metal banding that's been stamped or embossed. And I'm going to start now with CELADON and Guatemalan Green Silks Acrylic Glaze. They're both real pretty colors, and I'm going to try and mix them on the ornament as I work. I will go ahead and fast forward this so that you will get the idea of what I'm doing without having to wait forever. So let me go ahead and start the video. As I started painting this with the silks, I realized that I was covering up the cracks. So I decided to remove some of it and leave some of it in the lower areas. And as you can see, it will wipe off fairly well with the damp paper towel. I'm using a wet baby wipe, damp baby wipe. And I want the cracks to show, so I can't use paint that is going to be too thick and cover up the cracks. So the nice thing about this is that you can remove it, because, as I said, I did prep the surface beforehand, and I know that I can fix mistakes if I need to. And the only reason I leave this in the video is so that I can show you what you can do. There are no mistakes. You see, you can fix everything. And I kind of like that the color is going down into the crevices. And so what I will do is I will probably make a wash and come back and do the other half, and then do the same thing, so at least I'm even, and then I'll proceed from there. I think I will probably use watercolors or primary elements with the solution to make color washes, and that will still allow me to have the cracks show through the paint. So let me go ahead and dry this. I will go ahead and paint this half, wipe it off with a wet paper towel or damp baby wipe, and then we'll be even and we'll continue from there. Okay, I'm back before I actually finish this because I wanted to show you that I can actually add water as I add the Silks Acrylic Glaze and get a wash, and I can still see the cracks through there. I may still come back and wipe some of it back just so that I have the same variation of color, but I just wanted to show you that you can do that if you wish, and whether or not you wipe it back or not is up to you. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it like I said I would, and I'll be back after it's all done. Okay, I've added a wash of the CELADON Silks Acrylic Glaze to both sides. I added water to the mixture as I painted it on, and then I could lightly wipe it off. Rather than on this side, it's a little bit darker because this is the side that I colored with just the paint and then had to come back and wipe it off. I also brushed clear water over it and kind of rehydrated it so that I could bring more off and make it more white like the other side. And so my suggestion to you is that, and I should have thought of this myself, but that's my job, is to show you what will and won't work and how to fix it. If you want your cracks to show, you don't want to cover them up with a paint that will do that. You really want to use washes or fluid acrylics. And so I'm going to change over to primary elements, pigments, and make some washes to add to this, and then we'll proceed from there. Okay, I'm going to make my own fluid acrylic with primary elements and the solution, which is an acrylic medium wash by ColourArte. And I like to save these little plastic lids. This one's from sour cream, whatever you like. And then when I'm done, I can take them to the sink and wash them and reuse them. But what I'm going to do is mix the solution and the primary elements color that I want to use, which is this time I'm going to use Black Emerald. And after I get it all mixed, I'll start applying it, and I'll go ahead and fast forward the video at that point. Okay, well, I forgot to turn my camera on, and so I've already done one half, so let me show you what I did. I poured some of the solution into my palette, and I added about that much. I don't know if there's no real measurement for it. I mean, just make it as dark or as light as you like. And then I started just brushing it on. And now I will fast forward the process. Okay, so here's the second half that I've painted, and you might ask me, do I really need to leave the CELADON Silks Acrylic Glaze on the supply list? And my answer to you is yes, because mixed media, as most of you know, is all about layering, and it's important that you have color on top of color on top of color. I dare say my colors would not look quite so green, for instance, because there's a lot of black in this. But I'm actually seeing, I don't know if you can tell right here, but I'm actually seeing that CELADON color shine through. And so, yes, if you want that green tint, even though I didn't use a lot, if you want that to show through, then it is important that you prep the first layer with the CELADON green as I did. But it's up to you. Change colors, whatever you wish. It's your piece. So just all I can say is enjoy yourself, have fun, and just enjoy the process. So I'm back again, and I left this to dry overnight, not because I had to, but because it was time for me to go to bed. And so what I wanted to show you is that this is all dried up. And you don't have to throw it away or wash it down the sink. You can take some of the solution and rehydrate it, just like you do any watercolor, and mix it up. we will continue to use our paint. No waste. Isn't that great? So what I want to do now, put a little bit more solution in. What I want to do now is paint the very tip-top ends of the ornament where I was using it to hold. And so I can do that off camera, but as you can see, I can continue to use that bit of paint and add it to these ends, and I have not wasted any of my primary elements. So I just love working with primary elements. I love all the ColourArte products, as a matter of fact. So let me go ahead and finish this up, and then I will come back and we'll put on another color. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is stipple on some African jade primary elements, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to make a wash with it in a clean palette or plastic lid, and I'm just going to pick up a nice amount of it and dip it in there, and be sure and cover the jar, because the first time you forget to do that, I guarantee you'll knock it over, or a gust of wind will come up. Anything too. It's like glitter, you know. It gets everywhere. So anyway, I've got a nice mixture here. Yeah, isn't that pretty? Oh my goodness, I just love that color. So anyway, what I'm going to use for this is I have these sponges that usually are used for washing your car, your boat, things like that. And I think I picked this up at the dollar store, and I just cut pieces off, and I've already cut a little square off over here that I'm going to start using, and I'm just going to kind of dip it in there, and I'm just going to start stippling the color over that blue background. Can you see that? And it's going to leave this gorgeous, gorgeous, shimmery, almost cracked looking design. My favorite thing about stippling with sponges is you get these really awesome details. So I will fast forward this, and then I will dry it off camera, and then I'll come back. Okay, here I have the newest line from ColourArte, the Vivid Ultra Metallics. This is the True Silver. It has real metal, and I'm going to paint the middle band here with it. I might come back and paint this. I haven't decided yet, but I will go ahead and fast forward the video, and you can watch the process. Alrighty, so here I am, I'm back, and I've decided to not only paint the middle band, but also the other rope band that matches this, and then the two ends, just to kind of balance everything out. And so the next thing I'm going to do, I think while I've got some of this out, I might try a little dry brushing. So let me just show you how to do that briefly. I've got a very tiny amount on my brush, and I think you can see I'm just kind of lightly going over and picking up highlights wherever possible. not really covering everything in. And so it's just a very dry paintbrush. And what you do is, if every time you pick some more up, you kind of take it onto a piece of paper. And I have to tell you, this paint dries very, very fast. So you don't want to have too much on your brush, and you don't want to have too little. And I would suggest that if you've never done this before, try it on something, a sample maybe, just to get the feel of it. It's really quite easy. If I can do it, anybody can. So go ahead and just play and have fun. Experimentation to me is the most fun part of it all. And amazingly enough, with ColourArte, I guess it always seems to turn out so pretty. So I would have to say, in that case, it must be foolproof. What do you think? Okay, I'm going to fast forward and finish up doing a little dry brushing here, and then we'll come back and talk some more. So there, can you see the dry brushing on that, how it picks up the highlights of the leaves and the details? And it's just so pretty. It's just gorgeous. All right, so I've patinaed it now. I think it looks a lot like a piece of pewter that's been, or even silver that's been tarnished. And I just prefer that look. I love the look of vintage, and I think it brings out the details a lot. And then I also did the remaining rope banding the same way. Now the next thing I want to do, I've cut up a few sponges. I want to bring some more green in, Christmassy green. So I've got forest green here in Primary Elements, and I thought about sponging some of that on and see what I get. So I'm going to once again use my solution on a paper or a plastic lid and mix up some of that green. That is some pretty green. I don't know if you can see how pretty that is in the jar. It's a gorgeous color. That's, once again, that's forest green. And I'm just going to clean my brush off and make a nice mixture with this. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous color. And I'm just going to put a little bit on the sponge here. Just kind of get most of it off on my brush. I'll probably just pick it up, and I'll go ahead and apply this to the blue area again, and I'll speed up the video for you while I do that. Okay, my beautiful forest green color has been applied with the sponge, and I think it helps green it up a little bit more. You still see the blue undertone, but I've got a little bit more green for Christmas. The thing I want to do now is add a little bit more vintage feel to it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Bronze Medallion primary element pigment. And this is probably one of my favorites. It's such a rich color. I think you can see in the, it's not golden, it's not copper, it's somewhere in between. And it has such a rich vintage feel to it. So again, I'll use the solution. And I will make me a wash. Okay, so I've mixed up my primary elements in the Bronze Medallion with the solution. And I'm going to use my finger this time to apply this gold color. And I think you can see I'm getting a much stronger effect by doing it with my finger. I can actually feel when it gets to a dry, it almost begins to feel dry. And then you can sort of continue to add the color as you see fit. And if you want to come back and wipe some of it off, you certainly can. Or you can do it right now. You see I can wipe some of it off, get this nice color back. Leave as much or as little as you want. Very nice effect. Makes it look very old. Now I'm going to show you a technique that I like to use to add shadow or shading. And I want to bring out the depth of these leaves that are on here. So what I like to do, once again I'll be using my finger, but I've got primary elements in burnt umber, and I'm just going to put a little bit of solution out, and using my finger, I'm just going to wet my finger with the solution and put it into the jar, come back out and make sort of a pasty feel to this. I don't want too much water, I want it more like a paste. And I will start just going up from around the edge of the leaf here, and with my cleaner finger I can bring it up. And there, can you see how that just really brings that out and adds that little bit of shading to it to make it pop. And I will continue to do this around the entire ornament on each leaf like that. And you see how that just really adds to that. Whereas as I go around, they don't show up real well, but this really just makes them pop, I think. So I will go around and do the entire, on both the top and the bottom. I'll do the top and leaves and the bottom leaves, and then I'll come back and I'll just rotate it for you and show you what I did. Okay, so I've gone around the perimeter of this row of leaves, and you can see how it brings out the dimension. And then I wanted to show you down here, I did the same thing, but I wasn't quite as neat. And what I want to show you is that you can remove it with a wet baby wipe or paper towel, and just leaving, and you can even come under here and get what's on the ornament background itself. So you don't have to worry about being really careful with this. It's pretty forgiving. And yet I'm still going to maintain that shadow there and neaten it up all at the same time. So there you have it. So while I was working with this wash, I noticed that by adding this burnt umber with more solution in it, so it wasn't quite so pasty, I was able to add a beautiful, even more depth to this just by adding it around the rope detail and over the areas where the cracks are more prominent. It really brought those out, and it gave such a nice patination that I decided to continue around, and I will do it on the bottom here too. And then stay tuned for the photos at the end of the video, and I'll give you some close-ups. Alrighty, I've added a complete wash of the burnt umber primary elements all over it, and not just around the leaves, and I really like the vintage feel I've got now. Some of you folks might like it more vivid, bright, or traditional Christmas colors, and you know, it's personal preference. ColourArte has a large selection of colors. You're sure to love any of them. And so I just want to thank you so much for watching my video. I hope that if you liked it, you would give me a thumbs up and perhaps subscribe to my channel. And most of all, I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas, whatever. Just be safe and have a pleasant holiday. Thanks again, everyone. Bye-bye.